Just to recap then, we've just looked at how you would possibly go in about raising the deposit for a buy-to-let investment. We've just actually been having a conversation out in the corridor. I will repeat it because some of you wouldn't have heard it. Another good way of doing it is by raising the money on a credit card. There are a lot of companies out there at the moment offering 0% still on credit cards. Now, there'll be a mixture. Some will give you 0% on purchases, which is great, means you will have a fixed amount of time to go out and buy anything you want up to the limit on that credit card at 0%. All you need to pay back is the minimum payment. Some will do it on balance transfers, so they will let you take a balance, either your overdraft or a loan or another credit card that you're currently paying interest on. And have a 0% rate from them. And some will do both. Some will let you do the balance transfers and the purchases on one card. Bear in mind, with balance transfers, the companies that all used to do that for free have now realised, well, hang on, we're taking on somebody else's debt and we're not charging a penny for it. So they've got wise to that. And they normally charge a fee, typically now about 3%. So if you're bringing over £5,000 on another credit card, they're going to charge you 3% of that, £150. So just factor that into your calculation. I personally avoid balance transfer cards. I just stick to the purchases. So any purchases that you make, your groceries, petrol, day-to-day costs, anything that you can put on your card, put on it at 0%. Offset that money, then get that money together, use that for your deposit. Again, the only thing to bear in mind with that is that you will need to have a reasonable credit profile to get a decent credit limit on a 0% card. The money does have to be paid back within a certain time, otherwise you will pay interest on it. So make sure you work out a way that you can actually repay that back before you start paying interest on it. If not, then factor in the interest cost in how effective that is as a method of raising that money. Sorry, Ben.
And I was just going to say, if anybody ever does do a balance transfer, don't ever use that card to go and then do some purchasing on.
Absolutely
because
right.
That gets locked in and then you get tricked. So that is a trick they play.
The other way, quite right, what Ben has said, and again, things like taking cash out, you will always pay interest if you've actually literally withdrawn the cash out of an ATM, or you'll always pay a charge on it. And when you're repaying money back onto it, they will actually make you repay the cheaper money first before they will actually allow it to start coming off the more expensive money. There are a couple of exceptions to that rule, but generally, by large, they will make you pay the cheaper money back first. Just be careful, again, if you're going into something like that. Make sure you know all the facts and figures. And usually, if you're going to have that card, stick to one thing on it. I stick to purchases on mine. I never use it in the ATM, and I never use it for balance transfers. But that's just me. You know, we've all got different ideas, eh? All right, finding the right buy-to-let mortgage. Oh, finding the right one, well, it's not a problem. Everyone does buy-to-let mortgages, don't they? Everyone's desperate to lend to 85% of the property. You all know that, don't you? Unfortunately, no longer the case. Up until a year ago, even up until a few weeks ago, Bristol and West, for example, was still offering 85% on buy-to-let. A lot of movement in the last couple of weeks. I'm not aware now of anybody offering more than 75% on buy-to-let, although I may be wrong, and with new build, obviously there's other ways of doing that. So generally 75% is the highest that I've seen out there in the last couple of weeks. Anybody here seen anything different to that?
I think you get 85% if you can, I've seen a few of them, but if they're not good rates, then we can...
I mean, we will share ideas, which a lot of you will already know, of how you can go about raising 85% with a 75% mortgage and things like that. So that will be something that we'll share with you. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I think the post office is still doing Bristol and West at 85%.
Still doing it, yeah. I mean, again, they may still be available. They were showing on Money Supermarket, and up until a couple of weeks ago, I had been led to believe they had been withdrawn, but may still be one or two offerings out there. But finding the right buy-to-let mortgage, obviously we've already been through the initial investment. no mortgage company is going to lend you 100% of the value of the property you're buying. So you can't go and say, look, I found a great property, I want to rent it out, it's costing 100,000. There you go, there's your 100,000. Just pay us 6% when you got it. Ain't going to happen. They're limiting what they will lend. Like I said, we've already touched on the kind of amounts they will lend to. Typically, the industry standard was 85%, so 15% deposit. They lend you the other 85%, away you go, yeah? No longer the case, but, you know, we'll look at that. The list of factors, how much you can put down will determine the mortgage you get. The purchase price of the property will determine the mortgage you can get. The type of property you wish to buy, again, Mike had already mentioned things like flats above a commercial property. How many of you think you would get, you know, the full percentage on, say, a one-bedroom flat above a Chinese takeaway? Obviously, the mortgage company has to look at your property in the same way you look at it, as in a business proposition, and they think to themselves, well, if we did have to sell this, how easy is it going to be? And property above a takeaway, maybe people won't like the smell of food, or they won't like the fact that people are turning up at 2 o'clock in the morning to get a takeaway after they've come back from the nightclub. So the type of property that you're looking to raise capital on can have a big impact on the mortgage you'll get. Your personal credit history, different makeup of customers. You've got the person who makes their payments on time every month when they're due, never had to be chased for a payment in their life. You have people who've got themselves into financial difficulties, maybe have missed mortgage payments or have the odd county court judgment here and there, or have defaulted on a couple of credit cards. You've got people who may have had bankruptcies or IVAs or actual had property repossessions. So they're all going to make a big difference on the kind of mortgage you're likely to get. Your attitude to risk, so the kind of business model you're going for, single occupant, HMOs, the type of proposal you're going to make is going to have an impact on what companies would take your business. The degree of aftercare, so how much you need once you've set the mortgage up. Do you need a mortgage company that you can pick the phone up and speak to every 5 minutes, or do you need to just go in, look, take care of the finance and that's it? The next time you need to worry about that is however many years' time when you're looking to refinance it. The duration of the borrowing, so how long you're proposing to do the mortgage over. Maximising the cash flow, so are you going to go for a capital and interest mortgage, in which case you're going to try and chip away at the capital balance? Are you going to maximise your cash flow by going for an interest-only mortgage? Obviously, then you've got a lower monthly payment, it gives you more money. The downside of that is that at the end of the mortgage term, if you're still with that mortgage company, you will still owe the same amount that you borrowed in the first place. So again, that is a factor. But we've covered off initial investment. So I'm just going to go through the purchase price. Now, a lot of lenders will have a minimum purchase price. Typically, it was around 65 or 70,000. So if you find this great little property that needs a fair bit of work doing and they only want 40,000, you may be quite limited on what kind of mortgage you would be able to get on that. It may be worth looking at another way of funding if it was something that cheap. If you can fund it by a different method and bring the value up by doing work, then maybe at a point in the future you could look to mortgage it, get a mortgage on it when you've increased the valuation. Again, that is a big factor, and a lot of companies won't touch property below a certain value, so just bear that in mind, okay?